Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So y'all, this is our first time back with a normal Zoo News episode for quite a while, honestly. 2 weeks is a long time, isn't it? So I'm excited to be back, and I have lots of cool stories to get to for y'all. But of course, before we do that, I do like to start off by sharing a little bit about my life. And the big news for me is that I'm recording this on Thursday, and by the end of the day, I will be headed out of town. I'm going down to Harrisburg for a couple days, and then I'm starting my adventure-y zoo trip that I had told y'all about before. And for those of you who listened to that, I wasn't able to say all the places I was going to. And the fun part is I'm actually still planning this trip, which, is fine. Honestly, I'm going to be gone a long time, and I'm not too worried about the details. They always work out. But I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure that I now know all the places I'm going. I'm not sure that they will all be for Rossifari. I may end up at some of them as a guest, even though usually showing up as a guest still means finding friends and fans and getting to hang out with cool animals and all the fun stuff. But so I wanted to tell you about this upcoming trip because not only is it going to be fun, but it's going to shape the next couple weeks to months of the podcast. The trip is going to start off, once I leave Harrisburg, with me going to Smithsonian's National Zoo in D.C., and I'll be hanging out there. And then I will finally be making my return to the Greensboro Science Center. It's been far too long, and there has been so much change there, and I can barely wrap my head around everything that's going on, but I'm excited to get back there. I really miss my friends there, both human and non-human. And then after that, there's going to be a trip down to Atlanta. I'll be hitting up Zoo Atlanta and the Georgia Aquarium multiple times, I'm fairly certain. And of course, while I'm there, I'll be there for AZA Midyear, the conference that is happening in Atlanta this year. I'll be speaking for Safe Red Panda and maybe for Safe Tree Kangaroo. I'm still not entirely sure what the plan is for that, but I will be there and I will have my mouth if it is needed. And then I think I'm going to go after that to Zoo Knoxville, try and catch up with Sarah Glass and see some red pandas. And then finally, talking about places I haven't been in a while, it has been years since I have been back to the Columbus Zoo. And again, just a place that I love so much and that I used to go to all the time, and life has just gotten in the way. And I really miss my friends there. And again, talking both people and animals. And I'm so excited to get back to the Columbus Zoo. I'm literally like losing my mind. And then I also plan on going to the Newport Aquarium, the Louisville Zoo, and the Cincinnati Zoo on this trip, along with hitting up the ABMA/IAATE conference that I'll be covering for the podcast. And then after a very quick break from the road, where I'll be home for like 2 or 3 days, I'll be heading to New England. And while I'm there, it's not for the podcast, but I will be making stops at Roger Williams Park Zoo and visiting our good friend Danny at Southwick Zoo. And speaking of Danny, and part of why I'm so excited about this trip is the ABMA IAATE conference that I mentioned. Y'all, there are so many people that I know that are going to be there. Just off the top of my head, people that I know and I'm friends with that have been on Rossifari, that if you listen, you know, that have confirmed they're going to be there, include Danny Larson and Megan Angers-Gunding. I don't know how she says her last name. I just know her as Megan, from Southwick Zoo. Steve Martin, Amy Fennell, yes, she's alive, from NEI, as well as Ari Bailey from NEI. Wouter Stillard is going to be there. Chris Jenkins, who was at NEI and is now the director of the Virginia Zoo. Trisha Gunther, who's currently at the Buffalo Zoo. We talked to her back when she was at a different zoo. Jake Belair, my very first guest. Kelly Salamone, Nikki Boyd, both from San Diego. Kaz Brooks, they are at Brookfield Zoo now, but they were at Roger Williams when we did that great interview about binturong welfare and changing the lives of those binturongs there. Shane Gorbett, who was at Columbus when I interviewed him and is now at Philadelphia Zoo. And also some other people that I've become good friends with in this world, but haven't had on the podcast yet. So, I mean, that's just an amazing time. And I'll be celebrating my birthday at the conference. And I've talked about this on here before. One of the things that's the hardest about both being a touring musician and being in this podcast world where I gain these relationships with people all around the country is that I have these friends that I love and adore, but I don't really get to see them. And often you're in touch when you're together and then you text a little bit or whatever, but it can be a little lonely even though you have a bunch of friends. And so the fact that I just dropped all those names and that we're all going to be together and we're going to be in Cincinnati, one of my favorite places, and that my birthday will be during that whole thing, I'm losing my mind, y'all. I'm actually so excited about it that I keep forgetting to be excited for the AZA Mid-Year Conference. Because I love AZA conferences, and this is my first time going to mid-year. And I literally just keep forgetting to be excited about it. But it'll be great. It'll be great. It'll all be great. So yeah, I'm really excited about this upcoming trip, and I can't wait to share all of these amazing people with you again. So look forward to that. And yeah, with all of that said, I think it's time to get to Zoo News. So a quick reminder, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss these episodes or the Tuesday interview episodes. Make sure that you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, at Rossifari Pod on the TikTok machine. And you can tag me on those socials or email me, rossifaripod@gmail.com, if you see any Zoo News stories, and I'll say your name at the end of the episode. So with all of that said, let's get to it.
Well, it's 1 for the pandas, 2 for the bears, 3 for the monkeys. Now you should care. Now won't you listen to Zoo News? Or you could do anything but want to listen to Zoo News.
All right, and so we're going to start off the section with a bunch of births, and we're starting with some late-breaking news from our friends at the Columbus Zoo. A brand spanking new baby short-beaked echidna has been born at the zoo, the first time the zoo has successfully bred the species. The puggle, as babies are known, emerged from the pouch in early February, but that was after it had already been born 65 days earlier, when it was just a little jelly bean, and it crawled into mom's pouch to finish baking in there. This is not just exciting because, echidnas are awesome, but also because they are a notoriously tricky species to breed in human care, and there are very few facilities in the AZA that house them. So congrats to the team at the Columbus Zoo, and yes, I very much hope I get to see the little one when I visit soon. Two of the cutest little babies you'll see anytime soon have been born at the Buffalo Zoo, and you can check out pics on their socials. A pair of endangered spotted turtle hatchlings are currently being cared for behind the scenes at the zoo. These babies are little, right around the side of the first part of my thumb, up to the first knuckle, and I don't know if y'all know this, but spotted turtles are adorable, and the babies are just little tiny spotted turtles. So yeah, they're extra adorable. So check them out on the socials. Isan and Bosco, two Hoffman's two-fingered sloths at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, have given birth to a baby sloth, which makes sense since that's what they are. The little one is doing well, hanging out on mom's tummy. Well, actually, mom's doing the hanging, and the baby's crawling over her belly straight up. But anyway, you get the point. You know how sloths work. The sex of the baby has not been determined yet, but the little one is visible on mom's belly at the zoo. Yorkshire Wildlife Park has welcomed 4 cheetah cubs born to mom Darcy and dad Brooke. The babies were born on Valentine's Day, which is also Zoe's birthday, and Darcy is doing a great job taking care of the littles. It will be a few weeks before they're able to be seen on habitat, but the zoo has set up a cheetah cub cam with a live feed to the cheetah habitat area, so if you're at the zoo, you can see the cubs just, on a screen. But that's really cool. I love that they set that up. And actually, that's not the only pitter-patter of little cheetah feet you can hear right now. The San Diego Zoo Safari Park has announced the birth of 4 male cheetah cubs to first-time mom Kalichi. This is the first time cubs have been born at the park since 2020, which is something I remember well as I got to see those little buggers, and they were so cute. All 4 of the boys are being very rambunctious, as little boys are, and are hanging out with mom and doing a great job. The first rhino calf of the season has been born at the Wilds. Southern white rhino Agnes is the mother, and the baby is a strong and active little boy. He still stays close to mom, but he's starting to venture a little bit away from her to explore before, adorably running back to be close to mom. Little baby rhinos are they're a lot. They're a lot of energy and a lot of fun, and very excited for the Wilds and the start of this birthing season. An Ankole cattle calf has been born at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and it's actually the first one that has been born there in over 20 years, so it represents a really exciting birth for the park. The St. Louis Zoo has welcomed 2 female lesser kudu calves named Mildred and Mabel to first-time moms Judith and Jamila. Both are doing well behind the scenes, but will be visible in the coming weeks. And y'all, if you don't know, lesser kudus have really big ears compared to their head size, and the babies have little heads, but really big ears. It is absolutely adorable. And then last but not least in births this week, Wild Discovery Park in Ribby Hall Village in the UK has announced the birth of 3 baby binturongs, or bintlets. They are the 5th, 6th, and 7th bintlets born at the park, showing the success of the European breeding program. The 3 are not visible outside yet, but have started exploring their inside area, and again, moving away from mom, like we talked about. It's kind of the first step with some of them. So they should be venturing outside shortly. And yes, these little kernels of popcorn are abso-freaking-lutely adorable. Of course, then, that brings us to the other side of the coin. We do have to say goodbye to some beloved animals this week. Mimo, the 14-year-old jaguar who called the living desert home, was humanely euthanized after a protracted battle with kidney disease. Renal failure is a common issue amongst older cats of all sizes, and the zoo did an incredible job monitoring Mimo's comfort and well-being throughout the process, but a recent sharp decline in his health meant that it was in fact time to say goodbye. Como Park Zoo has said goodbye to Jambu, the 40-year-old orangutan. Jambu had multiple liver masses that are consistent with cancer, and given that he was already older than the typical lifespan for male orangutans, the decision was made to say goodbye. He called the zoo home since 1995 and lived with Marquisa, his female companion, for the majority of his life. Inca, the 21-year-old ocelot that called the North Carolina Zoo home, has passed away, having lived past the life expectancy of ocelots in human care. Inca had been doing well until the loss of her longtime mate Diego back in 2025. The two had been paired together way back in 2006 and have lived together through multiple zoos. And unfortunately, the loss of her partner of almost 20 years seemed to just kind of age her more quickly, which is common and kind of adorable in its own way. She had an incredible team that worked hard to keep her healthy, happy, and enriched throughout her entire life, and especially at the end. And she was known for having just an absolutely huge personality, which is greatly missed at the zoo. Our friends at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo have said goodbye to a gentle giant, Mashama the giraffe. The 15-year-old male giraffe passed away unexpectedly earlier this week. Mashama was a pioneer in giraffe husbandry care, eagerly participating in training and treatment sessions, including during the time he needed to be fitted for an innovative orthopedic shoe after he fractured his foot while frolicking. He stood still for the fitting and also later became the only known giraffe to receive multiple stem cell treatments while fully awake. He also participated in acupuncture and laser therapy, all of which combined to help him reach the life expectancy of a giraffe in human care, despite the fracture that could have a greatly negative effect on his lifeline if not for the incredible care he received and his active participation in it. Now, Mashama was also known for being an important part of the herd in other ways. He wouldn't shift inside until he was sure everyone else had made it in. He was also great with babies, earning the nickname Uncle Mashama for his treatment of the calves, who often followed him around and hid between his legs like they often will with their mother. And as you may remember from our episode there, the giraffe team at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo are ridiculously incredible at what they do. They are true pioneers in the care of giraffes. And much of what they have learned came from working with Mashama, and part of his legacy that will live on, and a beautiful part of it, is the knowledge the team gained from him, and also that they then went on and go on to share with the rest of the AZA through workshops and trainings and other things that they do, which is just such a cool legacy for an animal to have. And yet again, such a great reminder that, you know, these animals in zoos touch us in amazing ways and they don't even understand. It's so cool. And then last but not least, we say goodbye to Han, the North American river otter, who has passed away at Turtleback Zoo. He was one of the oldest river otters in North America, almost reaching his 20th birthday. He was a sweet boy and was known for loving cuddles with his partner Shelby. He was also known for a deep love of training and for building special relationships with his keepers, which is, of course, why the whole team is grieving his loss. And then we move away from births and deaths and we get to the rest of our zoo news section. And we're going to start this week with the story that, okay, I'm worried, y'all. I'm worried that I'm becoming a grumpy old man. Because it just seems like everyone is super touched by this story. And I am too. There's a lot that I love here. But I also find it a little concerning in a way. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I might be overthinking this one. I want your opinion. And I will say I'm writing this right before lunch and I'm hangry, and that might have something to do with it, but I don't think so. Probably not. Okay, so let's talk about this, okay? The Edinburgh Zoo posted this adorable post about their penguins this week. The penguins at the zoo try to win over their perfect mate by presenting the most beautiful pebbles they can find. So the zoo has teamed with patients in local children's hospitals who paint pebbles that are then given to the colony for potential mates to choose from. Over 1,000 pebbles were painted by patients and then given to the penguins to sort through, picking their favorite ones to try to impress their mates. And I have to tell you, a lot of y'all sent me this story, and I truly do love how happy and excited y'all were about it. And I do. I think it's an incredible way to help kids stay connected with nature during their hospital stays. And the penguins seemed pretty happy about their selections, so that's cool. But I also know that there is a real problem with people painting rocks and moving rocks in nature right now. Taking the rocks home to paint, or even just painting them right there, but picking them up and moving them and disturbing the whole mini ecosystem that exists under and around just one single rock in nature can actually have really negative consequences on the environment. Rock piles and painted rocks are frowned upon by conservationists, and many state and national parks have banned the practice. So I'm curious to hear your take on this one. Do you think this is just a sweet, beautiful thing? It's the fourth year in a row that the hospital has done this, and it really picked up a lot of traction this year. Is it great? Is it awesome? Or are we showing people, especially as this goes more viral, that it's cool to pick up and paint rocks and all of that stuff? I see it both ways. And I do. I worry about the overall messaging of this. And again, maybe I'm overthinking it. This is where I want y'all, I want the Rossifarians to reach out and tell me what you're thinking. But I will say, regardless of where you land with all of it, when you isolate that messaging thing and get rid of that for a second and just look at how these kids get to connect to penguins and stuff, I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And you know, I love the Edinburgh Zoo. We've had them on before, and I love the work they do with binturongs and all kinds of stuff. So like, mad props to the zoo overall. But I do think these things are worth exploring. So I want your opinions on them. And actually, we are going to stay in the UK for a minute. There has been a wild PR thing happening at the Dublin Zoo this week. The zoo celebrated Mother's Day with a Mams Go Free offer, in which a complimentary adult ticket could be obtained with the purchase of a full-priced adult or child ticket. So to promote the promotion, the zoo partnered with influencer James Patrice in his drag persona of Malahide Mammy. And the internet just couldn't handle it, with right-wing protesters blowing up and saying things like, "Nothing has made me angrier in recent memory than this decision." The feeling from these people is that it's a disgrace to partner with a drag queen. It is an insult to women to feature a drag queen on a Mother's Day type promotion. And just they're mad at the world, apparently. And look, I get it. these are people that literally thrive off causing controversy and acting enraged over all the things. But come on, their listeners and their followers are actually believing it. And with everything that is going on in the world right now, saying that the worst thing that can happen is a drag queen being used in a lighthearted way to promote a free trip to the zoo is just so disingenuous. It's so much. And to be super honest with y'all, I've never understood drag. I completely support the right of artists to do it, and I get that it is a huge part of the queer community, and it's a big scene there, and that is totally cool by me. Do the thing, all right? I respect it. I respect that it's a thing. I'm totally fine with drag queen story time and all the things, right? I've never understood it myself or wanted to be a part of it myself. But to act like it's some kind of terrible thing and something that has made you angrier than everything going on in the world right now is just pathetic. And the Dublin Zoo is getting this insane pushback right now. And I hate to see it for something that was lighthearted and fun. And last but not least, in zoo news this week, Woodland Park Zoo has announced the pregnancy of 2 of their gorillas. Moms-to-be Olympia and Jamani are both expecting babies in May, just 5 days apart. Silverback Nadaya is the father of both babies, which is common amongst gorillas, so there won't be any Jerry Springer show appearances after the little ones show up. One of the most entertaining parts of the announcement is that the zoo showed the actual pregnancy tests, and they're just human pregnancy tests, but they work because we're so similar. That's absolutely incredible to me. You know, we have these things. We've talked to people on the show who are working to develop like polar bear pregnancy tests and have been for a decade. And man, gorilla keepers, they just get to go to their local pharmacy and be like, I'll take one of these, please.
Stereotypical animal podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news.
So the Saudi Arabian desert is the home of an incredibly ambitious rewilding program that it's kind of in the middle of right now. It's known as Rewild Arabia, and the program seeks to reintroduce 23 species back to the desert by figuring out the closest living relatives to the extinct animals that used to call the area home, and then releasing those animals back into the desert in the hopes that they will fill those ecological niches. The 12th such animal, the red-necked ostrich, has now been reintroduced. 5 of the birds were bred in human care, while habitat restoration efforts made the area safer for these ostriches. And now these 5 have been released, and there could be more coming. And like I said, this is the 12th species that has been introduced this way, which is pretty fascinating. It also gets into that conversation that we talk about a lot, about are we rewilding if we're taking different species or subspecies and dropping them into a place? It's an interesting conversation and not one that all conservationists agree on, which I think is kind of interesting. And one of the more fascinating aspects of this rewilding effort is that a lot of the species that we're talking about here were never seen by modern human eyes. Instead, the list of species determined to be necessary for reintroduction was gathered largely from cave drawings and then figuring out what remains they could find that were related to those, and then figuring out what they're related to now and going from there. And that's so cool. And it's such an interesting approach, right? Red-necked ostriches never lived in this area, but Arabian ostriches, they found cave drawings of them, and they figure they've got to be pretty close. Like of all the ostriches, they're the ones that are the hardiest and the closest related. So they've put them into the desert, and we'll see what happens. It's absolutely fascinating. SANCCOB announced this week that they recently rescued an African penguin egg and were able to successfully get it into an incubator and see it develop and hatch safely. The team then put the egg with 2 of the permanent resident penguins at SANCCOB's facility, Princess and Q, who took to foster parenting very well. The duo will raise the chick until it is strong enough to move out of the rehab area on its own, and the plan is to try to reintroduce the chick to the wild once it knows how to be a penguin. So that's a very cool story. A less cool story involves avian influenza, which is continuing its trek around the globe. And the latest place it's making headlines is in California. Again, this has traveled so much, this isn't even our first California avian influenza story. But the Department of Health, Public Health in California is warning the public to avoid contact with sick or dead wildlife after the disease has made its way along the California coast through not only the bird population, but elephant seal populations as well. The effects of the disease have been especially strong in seal pups along the coast. More research is needed to see what effects are fully happening to the elephant seal population at this time, but it's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it. This is a disease that really, this strain of it came to prominence right around COVID, right when we knew about those shutdowns and stuff. Remember that ancient history, right? Like 6 huge world-altering events ago at least, right? And we still have nothing to help fight it. It travels with birds around the world. Most of the world still hasn't gotten to Australia proper yet. Good job, Aussies. But like in general, it's just going on this thing, and zoos have just gotten used to like, oh, hey, we have to hide all our birds for a couple weeks now, and then, oh, they can come back out, and yay. And we got nothing, y'all. It's crazy. I'm sure, I know there are scientists working on it. Like, I know this isn't me bashing anything. It just boggles my mind that this disease, which has, gone through different populations, not just birds, not that birds aren't hugely important, and can keep shifting and changing. We've got nothing, y'all. It's crazy to think about. All right, so we're going to talk about Florida for a moment, and we'll actually be coming back to Florida in other news. And for those of you who know how much I like to make other news as goofy as possible, that should have you excited. But anyway, we've talked on here before about the fact that Florida has a problem with invasive herps, most notably the Burmese pythons, that have become such a huge problem in the Everglades that there is an annual contest around their removal. Well, now it seems a new species of invasive lizard has found its way into the South Florida wilderness. I mean, it's actually been there for a while, but it's becoming a real problem. And I'm talking about Nile monitors. All right. These are semi-aquatic lizards that can grow up to 6 feet long. And they actually started making their way into Florida in the 1980s, most likely as people got babies as pets and then decided to release them as their size and razor-sharp claws became problematic. Recently, the population has really started to flourish, so now when you're in southern Florida, you can encounter both Burmese pythons and Nile monitors simultaneously out in the wild. And while that's terrifying for humans, which, by the way, Nile monitors are happy to scratch and bite and attack and do not just run away from. But it's also absolutely devastating for the local environment. Prey animals are snapped up by these invasive species, creating both problems for native predators and, obviously, for the prey species themselves. It throws all of nature out of balance. So, yeah, it's so interesting. I give Florida a lot of props on here because they do a lot of conservation work. And it's honestly, it's a very conservative state that does a lot of what is generally considered a very liberal thing with the conservation type work that they do. But they also have really lax laws around what kind of animals you can have and stuff. So there's like conservation work being done, but then also Nile monitors and Burmese pythons that are just being bought at shows and then dropped into the wild. And it's an interesting discussion. I guess we can call it that. And then, to leave it on a happier note, the state government of Pennsylvania has formed a new working group involving several state agencies that will work together to create wildlife corridors throughout the state. And the idea is to connect fragmented habitats using underpass tunnels, fish ladders, and fences aimed at directing wildlife away from roads and towards areas of untouched land. And while the working group is still being formed, there is a lot of evidence from other states and countries that conservation efforts like this can be incredibly successful. So I, for one, am very excited to see what Pennsylvania comes up with. And that brings us to... in other news. All right, y'all. So I love using this section. Sometimes we talk about real stuff, but I also really love using it for sharing of goofy stories. And I have not one, not two, but 3 really interesting, unique, goofy. Let's just say these are very, very other news stories. So Scientists recently discovered that female snakes have a clitoris. There had been discussion around it in the past, but it was dismissed or overlooked, which of course makes me assume it was all male scientists doing this, with most of them being either single or with really unhappy partners. Shockingly, the lead researcher of this project was a woman, Megan Falwell, and she said that many who came before her dismissed the clitoris on snakes as scent glands. Now, snake clits not only play a role in arousal and stimulation during copulation, but they also give female snakes the ability to decide to cut copulation short. In other words, they are able to use their clitoris to choose which male they reproduce with, even if the male is successful in starting the mating process, which is absolutely fascinating. And yes, it is completely unsurprising that it is 2026 and we are just now discovering this because there are still human males who insist that there's no such thing or certainly have no idea what to do with it. Who knew that incel thoughts would get applied to non-human animals as well? And then this one, I don't even know which of these stories is my favorite, I gotta tell you. A drunk Canadian tourist kidnapped a live flamingo from the Flamingo Casino in Las Vegas. They have a wildlife habitat there, and he kidnapped a flamingo. He broke into the habitat, injuring several birds, before trying to carry one of them, named Peachy, to his hotel room. And yes, I hate stories like this, and it is not funny when people break into things. But on the flip side of that, the image of a dude just trying to take a flamingo to his Las Vegas hotel room is a lot. Like, flamingos are not small birds, and most Vegas hotels that I've been in have like security before you get to the elevator and stuff. My gosh, the mental image, it's just so much. And yeah, so the guy faces 4 counts of torturing, maiming, or killing an animal, with the victims listed as both society and multiple flamingos. Just a fantastic image, even though obviously I hate what happened. And then, possibly the weirdest story of all of these. A Florida man was found sunburned and disoriented on Sanibel Causeway, claiming he had been kidnapped by dolphins and forced to build an underwater city. He was found soaking wet and drawing blueprints in the sand when police arrived. The man, Ricky James Hollowell, told police he had been taken against his will by a pod of dolphins 3 days before he was found. The dolphins took him 40 feet below the surface to their underwater city where they needed help building structures. The dolphins communicated with their normal click-type language, which the man did learn to interpret. And the project Foreman, as you might assume, was a dolphin named Gerald. Because of course it was. So when asked how he breathed underwater for 3 days, Hollowell said that he didn't know, saying that Gerald took care of that and that you don't question Gerald. The dolphins were apparently satisfied with his work, especially his plans for their condos, town square, and recreation center. And while they did let him return to land, they did tell him to expect to be grabbed for phase 2. One of the police who found the man and looked at the blueprints said that they were very, very distinct and well done, and even were considering local zoning laws. So honestly, I kind of just respect the man for doing good work.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
All right, it is March, y'all, which is my birth month, and also Dolphin Awareness Month, which I guess that explains why they wanted the whole expansion of their town. It's all coming together, y'all. It's all coming together. Anyway, for the individual days, the 14th is Learn About Butterflies Day and Save a Spider Day. The 15th is Buzzard Day. The 16th is National Panda Day. The 18th is Global Recycling Day and Serval Day. And the 20th is World Frog Day and World Sparrow Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, folks, so there you have it, another episode of Rossifari Zoo News, and the first normal one we've had. I said normal. We probably shouldn't describe anything I do as normal, but y'all know what I mean. Anyway, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And I would also like to say thank you to everyone who has sent me stories these last couple weeks, including, and hopefully not forgetting anyone, Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Natalie Taco, Tran Hanton, Dr. Laura Schenk, Ren Howell, Jacob Zinn, Kevin Williams, Holly Page, Nikki Morley, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Ken Tryon, Marianne Rossi, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
April Taylor, Daniel Cohen, Kelly Palawi, Rowena White, Zach Poe, Jamie Chavez, Kristen Khalil, Maddie Pats, Jennifer Zune, Becca Robinson, Strix. Oh my gosh, I didn't forget to say Strix because sometimes I forget to say Strix and then Strix is like, oh my god, you forgot to say Strix, but now I'm going to say Strix, so Strix. Michael Sebastian, Melissa Kinney, Rick Schwartz, and Sierra Bowen. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back on Tuesday with a really sweet episode. Just gonna leave it there for now. And until then, remember, friends, the words, newsy credits backwards, are Steider Giswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. The San Diego Zoo Safari Park has announced the birth of... The Borth?